Greetings, New Zealand naturopath Eric Backer, author of Candida Crusher, formulator of the Candida range of supplements. Thanks for checking out my video. I really appreciate it. I've got so many questions here from viewers from many different countries around the world. I've got a page of about 20 questions to go through here, so I'll just take them one at a time. I've got a question here, gluten allergy and Candida. Eric, is there a link between gluten and Candida? What's the link? How come when I eat gluten, I feel pretty bad when I have Candida? Some people feel bad, some people don't feel bad. Let's talk a little bit about gluten and about Candida albicans in general. So many people I see who have a Candida issue tend to automatically believe that they have got a gluten problem. So let's have a careful look, really. Gluten is a protein, and there are many different types of proteins found in wheat. Not just in wheat and grains in general, but many foods contain proteins, and these proteins can potentially stimulate antibody production. It's nearly always the protein foods that are linked with food allergies of some sort, in my experience anyway. So what happened back in 2003, a few researchers discovered something very interesting. They discovered that Candida albicans, the most common form of Candida, has got many different types of proteins on its cell wall. As you know, Candida can be in a yeast form, and Candida can be in a fungal form. And sometimes it doesn't take much to trip that invasive fungal form, when I say trip, basically to help that conversion from yeast to fungal form. What really can stimulate that aggressive growth of Candida into its virulent form is the use of antibiotics or antacids or a high sugar diet or high stress. A person who's got prolonged cortisol problems with prolonged stress can often have notice that their Candida can really take off. So Candida can swing from this yeast form into this bad fungal form. We call a hyphenated form with many different types of filaments and threads that really help to encourage and spread the growth of Candida. It's this hyphal form, this fungal form in particular, that has this protein on its cell wall. Hyphal protein, I think it's HPW1, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. HPW1 is the name of this particular protein that they found. Now this hyphal wall protein found on the surface of Candida is very similar to gluten proteins. In fact, it fools the immune system. So when you get a lot of yeast in the gut, particularly in the small intestine, and it starts to adhere to the intestinal wall, and the immune system starts noting this, especially if you've got leaky gut, the immune system will start to attack this protein and build antibodies against this HPW1. When it does that, unfortunately, because the gluten protein is so similar, it can also attack the gluten protein and then create an antibody response. And this is why some people with bad Candida can notice a hugely bad gluten problem. Or why I've had so many people who tell me that they've had antibiotics and since then they can't tolerate wheat anymore, or gluten makes them feel sick. I can tell you now, once you get Candida under control and you reduce the amount in the body, you clean it up, you'll be able to tolerate gluten again. Because you've got celiacs, which is I think between 1 to 2% of the population, and then you've got non-celiac people who react to gluten. And I believe there's a huge link between not just Candida, but also bad bacteria and parasites and gluten intolerance. It's true that many foods today contain much higher levels of gluten than they have in the past, but it's also a fair assumption to make that people today eat far too much sugar and have too many foods containing antibiotics and crappy chemicals in them that damage our gut. And everybody takes pharmaceutical drugs, and everybody drinks fizzy drinks and those cola drinks. And so when we're leading this kind of a lifestyle, plus in the last decade, stress has gone through the roof, so people's cortisol levels are compromised. So if you add that combination, that toxic combination of increased pharmaceutical drugs, increased sugars, high fructose corn syrup, and just white sugar in general, increased stress, it's no wonder that people are reacting to gluten. And alcohol, let's throw alcohol in there too, because alcohol is one of the biggest contributors to leaky gut. Is Candida responsible for gluten intolerance? No, it's not, but it can exacerbate an underlying problem. So if you want to go back and enjoy gluten again, which most of you people can who are watching this video, you need to get the gut cleaned up. Try and clear out any Candida in the body, any overgrowth of Candida. Try and get the beneficial bacteria back to normal. Try and reduce your parasite load. And obviously try and get rid of the pharmaceuticals and the lifestyle, the stress and the sugars that contribute to this high Candida load. I believe that most people can tolerate gluten, and naturally in reasonable amounts. And once the digestive system is repaired, you'll be able to go back to those kinds of foods again. So is there a link between gluten and candida? There is certainly some kind of a relationship there. So it's important to point out that I know that some people are going to watch this video and say, well, Eric's wrong, gluten's toxic. I don't believe it is. I think anything's toxic in too much amount. But if you've got a good, healthy digestive system like mine, you can tolerate gluten. Thanks for tuning in.